2 finals appearances in 4 years and 3 conference finals appearances in 4 years. And the Miami Heat, despite the odds, have continued to be one of the strongest teams in the Eastern Conference since the arrival of Jimmy Butler. They now enter this offseason after another finals appearance, looking to run it back again and see how they can improve the roster to once again make the finals and hopefully finally get themselves and Jimmy Butler a ring. They'll have a few options to do so as they sit in Bradley Beal trade rumors, and will have Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo returning at the very least. But with a starter and a key role player off their bench entering free agency, they will have some interesting decisions to make to figure out how they complement Jimmy and Bam to try to push for another title. We're joined by a Miami Heat fan here. Trent, what do you think your Miami Heat should do this upcoming offseason?
First thing first, man, I just want to give them a round of applause, man, because they had a rough start of the season. They beat a number 1 seed. They beat a number 2 seed. They beat a number 5th seed or whatever. I think it was 5 or 4 around there. And then we went against the best team in the Western Conference. And shout out to the Denver Nuggets, man. They just exposed us. They were just a better team. We didn't have enough firepower. But anyways, that thing is over. I'm not going to live on it. It is what it is. But we're heading into the offseason, and this is once again another offseason. For all the Miami Heat fans, if you guys know, last offseason was a quiet offseason. We didn't really do too much. Free agency, we brought back our own players, including Dwayne Dedmon at the time, which he's an unplayable basketball player. We brought back Victor Oladipo, which I was excited about, very excited about, because the year we played the Boston Celtics, they were calling him the Jaylen Brown stopper. He's a really, really good defender back and stuff like that. But he gets injured once again, and his offensive game is just not there. And I honestly think Victor Oladipo, it's time to wrap it up. It's time to retire, my guy. That's what I personally think. And unfortunately, we still have him on our roster because we did sign him to that 2-year deal. This is the last season upcoming, but I'm going to get to the point where we're going to put him in a trade thing. But we got 2 key free agents, and that's going to be Gabe Vincent and Max Strus. If you guys know, Max Strus had a horrible finals, right? But let's not bash him and act like he wasn't a valuable piece to this Miami Heat run in the postseason. Because without him, I'm not saying we wouldn't have made it to the finals, but he definitely played a huge part. So has Gabe Vincent, where he took over the starting role. Kyle Lowry, he was having his problems of not being healthy, him dealing with injuries, and then coming off the bench, he finally accepted the role. Gabe Vincent came in, who's an undrafted player, and just played the lights out in the postseason. In the finals, he definitely fell off a little bit, but hey, what did you really expect from these guys? Did you continue to expect them to play like all-star players? That's what they were playing like. I felt like at sometimes the point of the season, or just in the postseason against the Milwaukee Bucks, the Knicks, and the Boston Celtics. Now the big question is, they're going to be commanding a lot of money. When I say a lot of money, I like say $15 million each for both of these guys. And the reason why I think that's going to be hard for the Miami Heat is because they don't have much cap room at all to be moving around with. And that's a problem, right? And, I love Jimmy Butler, but his contract is just getting bigger and bigger, right? This upcoming season, he's making $45 million to 48 to 52 to the 2026 season, right? Also, Tyler Herro's contract is officially kicking in this upcoming season, where he's making 27 to 29 to 31 to $33 million. And obviously, we got Bam and then Duncan Robinson. So, and then that's still counting Kyle Lowry. So we have a lot of big contracts, and we have 2 big players on the move that they made it known in their press conference that they love Miami Heat, but business is business. And you know what that tells me? That's not a good sign for the Miami Heat. Like, when people say business is business, that means they're looking for the bread, they're looking for the money. And for a player like Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, do you really expect to get a big contract like them to, live their life and make sure their family's, going well? How many contracts do you think they're going to be going to get? So this is their offseason to, do their thing. So hopefully we can retain Gabe Vincent, because I do not want Kyle Lowry to be our starting point guard next year. That would be really, really bad. We let Max Strus go. It'll be a tough one, but you got it. That's the NBA for you, right? Now going to the Bradley Beal thing, right? He and the Phoenix Suns, they're both in serious talks. Bradley Beal, to me, is a slight upgrade over Tyler Herro. But the thing about Bradley Beal is, one, he has one of the biggest contracts in NBA, and then also he has a no trade clause, the only player in NBA to have that on his deal, right? So my concern is Bradley Beal going on to the next 2 to 3 years, right? It's just wow to me. But also, what I do want to say is the Godfather is trying to do this trade without giving up Tyler Hero, which is very interesting to me, right? And honestly, I think the Washington Wizards, they're somewhat open to it. So what I personally would do, and I think the Miami Heat, maybe this is a biased take, I think the Miami Heat could be back in the finals. If you do trade for Bradley Beal and the package surrounding is Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, they either want Jovic or Haywood Highsmith. You got to give up your depth. You got to give up the young players. That's just how the league is if you're going to trade for these star players. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Look at the Phoenix Suns. They gave up a lot. And they're running Kevin Durant 48 minutes a game. So let's hopefully, that doesn't happen too much to the Miami Heat. But if it was, I could see a Gabe Vincent, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo lineup with Caleb Martin and Tyler Hero coming off the bench. And I personally think that team is going to be a top team in the Eastern Conference. Just because of the fact Bradley Beal does not have to be the number one guy. Jimmy Butler and Bam will be the number 1A, 1B. We all know Bradley Beal plays well when he's the 2 guy, right? When he played with John Wall, he played really good. When he played with Russell Westbrook, he was really, really good, right? So, he just can't be that number 1 guy, and that's what Washington is forcing him to do. And he's trying to carry our Porzingis and a Kyle Kuzma and all these draft picks that they drafted that just haven't really done too well. So, I'm up and down with it. I'd rather have Dame Lillard just because of the fact we know Bradley Beal's contract is huge. We all know he's injury prone, misses a lot of time, and we're already in cap hell. So I don't want to be cap hell later on for this team. So the Miami Heat are in an interesting direction. I will let you guys go. Let me just finish this real quick. Players that I would bring back is Kevin Love. I feel like he played pretty solid for us, man. Can't complain for a player that got bought out, played perfect, coming off the bench, being in the starting lineup. He's a veteran. He's a leader in this game, especially with Udonis Haslem leaving. We're going to need that, in the locker room. And so Kevin Love, that would be huge for us. And he still could be a productive basketball player. And say if we don't trade for Bradley Beal, I expect players like Haywood Highsmith, who had big moments in the finals so far this year, at least one good game, didn't really play him again after that. I'm confused about that, Spo. You have to talk to me about that. But Haywood and our rookie and Jovic, who had an injury year, but if he could play this year, crack the rotation, I think the Miami Heat should be a solid team. We need a big man because we're a very small team and we got exposed in the finals, even though I don't think no one's going to be stopping Jokic anyways. But that's just the Miami Heat team for you. A lot of questions, but there's always faith. And when you have the best coach in the NBA, I'm calling it right now, we're going to be in the position where we was this season once again.
Great take on the Heat. Totally respect it, man. And to agree with some of the things you said, I just want to touch on the whole Gabe Vincent and Max Strus situation. The Heat aren't in the greatest financial situation. So in between choosing Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, I think in that situation, you have to both played well, but you have to, in my opinion, go towards Gabe Vincent. I mean, he stepped up. Both undrafted player, but he stepped up. And honestly, yeah, like how he said, maybe didn't perform the best in the finals, but really stepped up and took the Heat I wouldn't say carried the Heat to the finals, but was a huge essential part in the Heat getting there. And the Heat wouldn't have got there without his play. But the issue is now with him, you're going to have to overpay him. You're forced to overpay him because, like how T said, now he's got a chance to get a generational wealth bag. He's got a chance to change his family's life for forever. And why would he not take that just because of some loyalty? That's not what the league is predicated on anymore. Ever since LeBron went to the Heat, changed everything. It's not about team loyalty. It's about players and what the players can get out of themselves. So Gabe Vincent will take the bag. So that's why I'm saying that the Heat are kind of forced to overpay him, because if they don't, a team that's just in a better financial situation will be able to give him the money that is looking for. You talk about return K-Love. I think K-Love would be great to return. You said Victor Oladipo should retire. That's crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Yes, maybe he's not the player he once was, but he did play some valuable point minutes for the Heat throughout the season, even a bit in the postseason run. But what I really want to touch on is the fact that is the fact of the Miami Heat needing a big, right? I think that is the number one and biggest priority. I think going into the offseason, you definitely want to try to tie up Gabe Vincent as early as possible. But following that, your number one priority has got to be to find a true big. And yeah, there's no team in the NBA has an answer for Jokic, but it's not even just Jokic. It's about the fact that you would have to again get through an Eastern Conference that has players like Joel Embiid, players like Giannis, have big teams like the Celtics. So when you have that, I know they did it this year, but if I had to put my money on the line, if I was a betting man, can the Miami Heat replicate this run and beat all these teams again and make it to the NBA Finals? If there's a chance that the other teams could be healthy, if I'm a betting man, I mean, and this is no hate to the Miami Heat, but I just couldn't put my money on them because of that lack of big man problem. It's just a glaring hole in the middle on the defensive end, on the offensive end. And then that leads me to my last point, and that's Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal will be great. Bradley Beal will be amazing, but for his price tag, I don't think it's worth it because he doesn't even, in my opinion, you put Bradley Beal on that team still is not winning the championship because they still haven't took care of their biggest issue, and that is the big man in the middle to be a rim protector and to be able to anchor the offense as well. So I think, yeah, Bradley Beal would be a great move splash, but would splash you to maybe the the Eastern Conference Finals, or maybe not even that.
Yeah. I think it's kind of interesting, like for the Miami Heat this offseason, it's like a lighter version probably of your Lakers, John. Like I think like with Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, like those are the two primary guys that, they're like younger, that you might want to hold on to. But, and I'm drawing the comparison to the Lakers mainly because of like Austin Reeves and Rui, where it's like it's possible they could bring both these guys back. However, if they do, like that's kind of the team that they're more than likely going to run with next year. And so I think like they could bring back Strus, they could bring back Gabe Vincent, but I don't know if they'll be able to bring back Kevin Love. I think considering he got bought out by Cleveland and then he signed with Miami, I don't know if they could go over to keep him on the team necessarily. So and I don't know how much they'd be willing to pay even if they could. So because of where he is in his career, I think maybe they do factor in the fact that, like you said, Trent, that Udonis Haslem, he's officially done. So they want someone to be that locker room voice, or maybe they think Kyle Lowry can be that. Maybe they think that Jimmy Butler can be that, because as we heard from everyone on the Heat say all postseason, even though we thought Jimmy was crazy at points where he's like, oh, we're going to win in game 4 against Boston. And then they didn't. And he said the same thing for game 5 and 6. And then eventually they did in 7. And it felt like, it was every time he was saying, we're going to win this game, that ultimately they did not. But at the same time, like all the players, like Kyle Lowry said it, Bam has said it, Caleb Martin has said it, that like that helped instill confidence in the team. So maybe they think that he can be, the mentor and kind of take what Udonis Haslem has put on this culture for the last 20 years. And, they don't need to go out and keep a guy like Kevin Love necessarily if they think it's an overpay. I think at the center position, like you said, John, like that's something that they probably need to consider. I mean, Bam is one of the best defensive 5s in the league. However, like sometimes it feels like he's more of a 4 than he should be instead of a 5. And also like he's kind of smaller than a lot of the big men or the centers in the league. So they definitely want to get a backup, and maybe one guy they can consider. I know I'm a Bulls fan, but if he decides to decline that player option, maybe Andre Drummond could be a solid backup for Bam Adebayo. And if they could find a way to get him on the team, whether it's a sign and trade or whatever, then maybe they could try that. I also think this year was kind of weird because it felt like last year, last year I was pretty high on what Omer Yurtseven could be. And this year he missed most of the year, because he had like that, I think like ankle surgery in like November. It never really felt like he even put his imprint on this season. So maybe they, kind of play a waiting game with him. And they think, if he's the guy, if he could be the backup to Bam, because he is 7 feet and he's a big body. So maybe that could be an answer for a backup as well if they don't want to give anyone in free agency or if they can't afford anyone in free agency. But I think, like you guys were saying, like with Bradley Beal, I think, especially if he's traded for Tyler Hero, which I was even talking, I think with Trent about this like earlier this week or something. I feel like if they were to make a big splashy move and a trade like that, Tyler Hero is probably going to be the fall guy just because his contract kicks in next year for the big money, the $125 million over 4 years. So that's probably going to match with a lot of the best players in the league. And they might be thinking, you know what? We just made the or the NBA finals without him, So it's like maybe we can make a move to get better, add another player to our team that's worth roughly the same value or maybe more by a bit. But he could be the bulk of that trade if you package him with like Duncan Robinson or something, or Nikola Jovic or Caleb Martin or some combination of those guys to make the money work. Then yeah, you could probably get Bradley Beal on the team while still keeping Jimmy and keeping Bam. Maybe find a way to get Oladipo in like a sign-in trade, like he takes his player option, then you could trade him. But I think regardless, he's going to take his money just because of the way his season ended, unfortunately, with injury. But I mean, even if he does come back somehow, next year and he has enough time under his belt, and if he stays healthy, then I think that's a big help for them as well. Because I thought in the regular season, he was probably a top 5, top 6 most important player on the team. The only problem that's been with him for the last 4 or 5 years is staying healthy. So like, if that's the case, then I like what they could do. But yeah, I agree with you too, Trent. I think Bradley Beal over Hero makes them a little better. I just don't know how much better it necessarily makes them. And that is a lot of money, especially because like he's going to be 30 here. He's turning 30 this summer, and then Jimmy Butler is like 33. If you keep Kyle Lowry, he's on the back end of his 30s. Oladipo is like 31. So it's like most of your primary players outside of like Bam at that point are going to be older. I think, Duncan Robinson, if you kept him, if you couldn't put him in the trade, he's going to be 30 soon. So that's just a lot of money. And I feel like they'd have to win now. And I think they can. It's possible they can go back again because the one thing I will give them is that because they beat Milwaukee, because they beat Boston in this run, I don't think they're going to fear anybody next year the same way they did this year. The only problem is, another year older, and while a lot of these other teams are more in their prime, it's probably just going to get a little bit harder. And if I had to bet, I wouldn't bet on them making the finals. I think there is a possibility they can again. They're going to be up there as one of the better teams in the East, probably at least a top 4 team or top 5 maybe, but I don't know. I think these are kind of the decisions they need to make, just a backup big. And if they do go for, someone like Bradley Beal, it's probably going to have to be Tyler Hero that takes the fall.
Yeah, I got a couple things I'm going to say on Bradley Beal. Briefly on the backup big situation, like it's definitely needed, but assuming there isn't a ton of these guys in free agency that get absurd offers, there should be enough talent that, although it might not be an ideal backup center, they should be able to improve there because they're probably only going to be offering a vet minimum to any of these guys. But between either a Thomas Bryant, like you mentioned, Garrett, Andre Drummond, or a Bismack Biyombo, or a Drew Eubanks, like
all those guys are better than Zeller.
Yeah, like none of them are amazing, but they're all significantly better than Zeller. So they should be able to at least upgrade there to some extent without it causing too many problems or being too difficult. On the Bradley Beal front, first in terms of the money, talking about how big his contract is, I'm honestly not letting that deter me if I'm Miami. It's a bad contract. There's no doubt about it. It is a really ugly contract. The ugliest bit of it is, of course, now with the Wizards, with it being a no trade clause, which I'll talk about more in a minute. But if I'm Miami, unless your plan is to make your team be more sustainable for a few years down the road when Jimmy's gone and Bam is the only guy left, money's not a concern to me right now. The concern is building the best team I can while Jimmy is still in his prime. And there's not that many years of that left. I mean, he's in his mid-30s right now. You probably only have a couple of more runs where he is at his peak or anywhere near his peak and is good enough to continue to at least push towards another NBA Finals. So I'm not concerned about the money. I'm concerned about how good can I make this team this year and next year while Jimmy is still at this level. The other thing I want to mention on the Bradley Beal trade, I know you mentioned, Garrett, about Hero being the centerpiece of this trade. This is the most unique experience of a team trying to trade for a player, and that trading away the better asset might make it harder for them to get the player. And what I mean by that is that Bradley Beal, with his no trade clause, essentially gets to pick what team he goes to. And between the Suns and the Heat fighting for him, the reports say that if Ayton is involved in the Suns trade, he will not choose the Suns because the Suns get worse. And he could do the same thing for Miami and say, well, Hero's being involved in the Miami trade, but Ayton's not being involved in the Phoenix trade. So I think Phoenix are better. So by virtue, I'm going to choose Phoenix. It is such a weird scenario where the Wizards might literally be forced to accept the team that offers the worst package because that's the only deal that Beal will agree to. And that's just on the fault of the Wizards. But as far as Miami goes, it might mean that they get to keep Tyler Hero and still have Bradley Beal. Hero gets to become a sixth man again, whilst Jimmy and Bam get help in the shot creation and three-point shooting department. It's Beal. It is such a weird scenario, but it wouldn't shock me if the package is Lowry and Duncan Robinson, or Lowry and Victor Oladipo once he opts into his player option. It's such a unique scenario, but it could end up being to the benefit of the Miami if it ends up working out and they do get Beal.
Yeah, just one thing, Trent, just to add to that. Like, we've seen that before sometimes, like even with players like when Kobe, like it was rumored to request a trade to the Bulls, and he's like, I'm not going there if Luol Deng's in the trade. So like it's weird. It's happened before, but I think, like you said, Bradley Beal being the only guy in the NBA right now with a no trade clause is a huge factor. But go ahead, Trent.
So I just want to go kind of back to your point with Omer, that bum. Omar, yeah, 7, man.
You don't like him?
Nah, I don't. Because when he does play, he's a traffic cone. So, and he's also a upcoming free agent this year, and I just don't see us bringing him back. I had a lot of high hope for the dude because the way I have a Heat Discord, and one of my friends in the Discord knows him personally. He plays Fortnite with him, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have a great season. I'm getting back from injury, this and that. Like, obviously, you're supposed to hype yourself up, but then when he gets back from injury, he ain't do nothing. Like, I literally watched this game where he can't move his feet. It's like he's in quicksand. Like, it was so bad. So he was healthy. He just didn't play. Spo didn't put him in a rotation for a reason. Spo thought Cody Zeller was going to be better than Yurt 7. So that should just tell you a lot, because it wasn't like Yurt was hurt or anything like that. He was healthy, could have played. And that, as a matter of fact, he was playing at the end of the games when Denver was blowing them out and stuff like that. So he's just a bad player. I lost kind of all hope with him. But yeah, that's why I was kind of going earlier though with out trading Tyler Hero. I think that trade is a good possibility. I'm actually reading a report right now that says Miami could send Lowry and Robinson along with multiple first-round picks to the Wizards. And then it says Phoenix sends Ayton an additional cap filler, CP3, and Shamet to the Wizards. So it's really just wash, trash that's getting sent to Washington right now. So hopefully, man, he comes to Miami because that'll be, pretty fun. I get it. I'm still up and down with it, but man, if you're a Miami Heat fan, we made no offseason moves. We made the free agency moves. We made no trade deadline moves. The buyout market, you brought in Kevin Love and Cody Zeller, and at the time, you're like, ugh, still ill to Cody Zeller. But Kevin Love, he was okay, right? So that's just the Miami Heat, man. I'm praying we get to a championship before Jimmy retires, man, because, man, I just want him to win one. Yeah.
The one thing I will say though is, like, I'm not gonna get back into like a part 2 Killian Hayes type of thing we had last time, but just because he is young, and like if they did have no more options, I think Omer Yurtseven, like if they see enough in him, they could at least try to give him another chance with a fully healthy season, just because he didn't have that this year. And maybe if they see the same thing, like he's still a traffic cone, he's not moving his feet on defense, then yeah, it's possible. But I don't know. I think they'll probably target other guys first anyways, but if push come to shove, that's an option.
Facts. So look, I had a question for y'all, man. So I'm definitely on the boat, and like I've said it, I'm on the boat of you bring Bradley Beal, the Heat still aren't winning a championship. What's your guys' take on that? Do you think Bradley Beal on this Heat roster gets them over the hump and they win a championship, or is that still not enough?
Like if it's possible, or like would I expect them to?
Would you okay, of course. I mean, I guess, with the Lord, anything's possible. But I'm just saying, like,
Okay, so you're asking
would
if
you
they
would you
will.
put your money? Would you put your money? Okay, let's say we put Bradley Beal on the Miami Heat, and let's say we can keep Tyler Hero in this perfect situation. Now in this next season, are you putting your money in the Miami Heat winning the championship?
Oh, you're saying keeping Tyler Hero as well, right?
Keep Tyler Hero, add Bradley Beal to that team.
I don't know if I'd put my money on it, but they'd be like a strong contender.
I'll answer that question next.
Go
So
ahead.
I think one thing people are failing to realize, and I think he proved it this season or this postseason, it doesn't matter who's on the roster. Spo's the best coach in the NBA. He's the best coach in the NBA. So he can work with any roster, and we've seen it this season. I know y'all wasn't watching Miami Heat in the beginning of the year when we have Jamari Bouye out there, Jamal Cain, Orlando Robinson, all players that shouldn't be playing on the court right now. Let's just say that. I'm going to be nice. So if you add another Bradley Beal to this roster with keeping Tyler Hero, one, let's not forget the Heat had the best bench with Tyler Hero coming off the bench. And two, the Miami Heat's starting lineup with Tyler Hero was not great because Tyler Hero is another player that needs 10 to 15 shots with the Miami Heat's offense. They move the ball around. Even Jimmy Butler doesn't even take that much shots too much often. They're a team that just gets everybody involved and just wins game, So I would love for this to happen. And like I said, if I have Spo on my team, honestly, this is crazy. It's like not no more because LeBron, but like back in the day when you had LeBron, you feel real confident. Like we can go to the championship because we got LeBron. That's how I feel about Spo. Spo's not even out there, but that dude is just a legend to me, bro. Even though in the finals, he was just trying to throw everything out there. The roster just wasn't good. But besides that, man, let's be honest, the beginning of the year, since the mid-season, no one had no hope for us. He changed that all around and went to the finals. So personally, I'm going to be a biased Miami Heat fan. I'm not scared of the Celtics. The Milwaukee Bucks are only going to get worse, and I hope Brook Lopez leaves. The New York Knicks, we all know Julius Randle is a playoff dropper. RJ Barrett's up in the air. So there's not much teams that I'm too worried about that where I'm like, damn, I'm scared of them. Like now, if we go to the West, I'm scared of Denver. You see what they did to my team. But in the East, we talked about this before, the East is not that really good. Cavaliers we can beat, Knicks we can beat. Bucks I think will be a tougher series with Giannis being there, obviously. But I still think we're confident beating them and the Boston Celtics. So, yeah.
So, yes? You got yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I'm putting my life savings down on them by any means, but I'm definitely putting a bit of money in on them because I think Beal fixes a lot of their problems offensively. Consistency of three-point shooting was a problem throughout the postseason, and Beal's only one player, but he's certainly going to help that. And perimeter shot creation was just the biggest lacking thing at a lot of times in this postseason. There was Bam trying to initiate things, and all the credit to Bam. For the most part, he had a really good postseason run, but I don't need him to be the primary initiator and creator on most offensive possessions on a contending level team. It got them to the finals this year, but it definitely had its points where it really lacked, especially in the finals. Denver defended that extremely well. And not that Beal needs to always be your primary guy, but if that's a wrinkle you can throw into 20-25% of your offensive possessions and get him in on dribble handoffs and catch and shoot opportunities and pin downs and get him in a lot of different actions that open up a lot more layers to this offense that aren't otherwise available, I think this offense opens up a lot. Their bench obviously improved significantly with Hero back on it. And I think Miami are right up there with as good of a shot as anyone else at the top of the East to get out of it.
I think like for Miami, like they just, obviously they just made the finals. I think like when we look at them from a talent perspective, I would say they're probably the fourth best team in the East, because talent wise, you would take probably the Bucks, the Celtics, the Sixers. The difference though is like you said, Trent, like the coaching edge they have on all those guys, like all those other teams, like I think it separates them a little bit more in not like above them, but like they can definitely be in consideration with them that if they mess up, like personally for me, I thought Boston made a lot of crucial errors when they played you guys in the Miami series, but you guys executed on their, what's the word? I guess they're mistakes, right? So like if you get Bradley Beal on the team, you're slightly improving the roster. and you have that edge as well. Like, it probably puts you more closer in the talent tier with those other 3 teams. And then if you also have the coaching edge, I mean, I wouldn't count them out. I still do think Denver, NBA champions, so they're going to be the favorites going into next year, unless like something catastrophic happens in the offseason. But I think like they still could get back at least to where they were this season for sure. And that's even probably if they don't make the Bradley Beal trade. But yeah.
Now, I'll be honest, y'all. On my show, a lot of the times I call myself the fence police. I don't let nobody walk the fence. So with my question, Trent, I got your answer. Trent gave me a yes, but I'm not gonna lie, Garrett. I didn't really get your answer. So
my
Beal,
answer about
yes
like
no?
putting my life savings on it, I'm gonna say no, because I think the Denver Nuggets will still be the favorites, and probably I would say in the East, I still wouldn't favor them just personally. A lot of things they got to work out that I don't know if I'm totally a believer in them. So I'm gonna say no, but it could happen. But
I'm
no
right there. Which, and Devin, you're on the no as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely not putting my life savings on it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with that no. But I just had to get a definite answer. Ain't no walking the fence around here, baby.
For sure. Well, hopefully for Heat's fans and the Heat organization themselves, they'll be able to make such a splash this offseason and bring in a Bradley Beal or another star around Jimmy and Bam Adebayo, as they'll be looking to make another finals after 2 in the last 4 years, and hopefully make another push before Jimmy's time in Miami is done. But let us know if you think they'll be getting a star and which star they will acquire this offseason down in the comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next one.